I'm calling to order this meeting. This is a regular meeting of the Committee of the Whole of the Council of the District of Columbia. Today is Tuesday, December 16, 2025. The time is 11:32 in the morning, and we are in room 500 of the council, room 500 of the council chambers of the Johnny Wilson Building. This meeting is being broadcast on cable channel 13 and is also available on the council's website, www.dccouncil.gov. We begin our committee of the whole meetings with a roll call to see if we have a quorum. Mr. Cash?
Chairman Mendelson.
Present.
Councilmember Allen. Councilmember Allen.
Here.
Councilmember Bonds. Councilmember Bonds, Councilmember Felder. Councilmember Felder, Councilmember Fruman.
Present.
Councilmember Henderson.
Here.
Councilmember Lewis George.
Here.
Councilmember McDuffie.
Here.
Councilmember Nadeau.
Here.
Councilmember Parker.
Here.
Councilmember Pinto.
Present.
Councilmember Robert White.
Present.
Councilmember Tran White.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We have the Secretary's report of committee filings. I'm going to recognize the Chair Pro Tem, Mr. McDuffie.
Thank you, Chairman. I move to waive the reading of the Secretary's report.
So a motion to waive the reading of the report. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion to waive the reading, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. We have the Secretary's log of introductions and referrals. I will again recognize the Chair Pro Tem, Mr. McDuffie.
And I will again move to waive the reading of the Secretary's report, the Secretary's log of introductions and referrals.
So a motion to waive the reading. Is there discussion? On the motion to waive the reading, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. We have two measures for markup in the Committee of the Whole. The first is PR 26-94 entitled Installation of Statue of Bernardo de Galvez Commemorative Work Approval Resolution of 2025. This resolution approves the installation of a commemorative work, it's a statue, located in public space adjacent to the Embassy of Spain. This is at 2375 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest. Commemorative work to be known as Bernardo de Galvez, a Friend of Independence. Bernardo de Galvez was a Spanish military leader and colonial administrator who played a significant role in the American Revolutionary War. As governor of Spanish Louisiana, Galvez provided critical military, financial, and logistical support to the American cause. His campaigns against British forces along the Gulf Coast, most notably the capture of Pensacola in 1781, helped secure American independence by diverting British resources and protecting supply routes. In recognition of this contribution, Galvez was granted honorary United States citizenship by Congress in 2014. The commemorative work consists of a bronze statue depicting Galvez in military dress, mounted on a pedestal and accompanied by interpretive signage and site improvements. The statue is sited within district-owned public space controlled by the District Department of Transportation, immediately adjacent to the Embassy of Spain. The location establishes a direct contextual relationship between the subject of the commemorative work and Spain's diplomatic presence in the district. This legislation was first introduced in Council Period 25 as PR 25-1084. It was reintroduced February 27th of this year as PR 26-94, introduced at the request of the mayor. The Committee of the Whole held a hearing on October 23rd, 2025, and I moved the print with leave for staff to make technical and conforming changes. Is there discussion? The vote will be on the print with leave for staff. All those in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. I move the report with leave for staff to make technical, conforming, and editorial changes. Is there discussion? Vote will be on the report with leave for staff. All those in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete
once the report and hearing record are filed.
Madam Budget Director, does the measure's fiscal impact statement comply with council requirements?
Yes, it does.
Without objection, this measure will be placed on the consent agenda for today's legislative meeting. Today's additional legislative meeting. The second measure for markup in the committee of the whole is Bill 26-248 entitled Philip Reed Memorial Park Designation Act of 2025. This bill would officially designate the park in Square 4351 as Philip Reed Memorial Park. Square 4351 is bounded by 28th Street, Douglas Street, Bladensburg Road, all in Northeast in Ward 5. This is an official park naming. Philip Reed, born around 1820 in South Carolina, was an enslaved Black artisan whose skilled metalwork was integral to the creation and successful installation of the Statue of Freedom, which crowns the dome of the United States Capitol. Mr. Reed was enslaved by Clark Mills, the American sculptor responsible for casting the statue in bronze in Washington, D.C. Contemporary payroll records and historical accounts identify Mr. Reed as a highly skilled foundry worker who performed critical technical work during the casting process, including resolving engineering challenges that enabled the statue's large bronze sections to be separated, cast, and ultimately assembled atop the Capitol dome. At the time the statue was completed and raised in 1863, Mr. Reed possessed unique practical knowledge of its construction, reflecting his indispensable role in one of the nation's most iconic monuments. Mr. Reed was emancipated in the District of Columbia in 1862 and lived and worked in Washington for the remainder of his life. Historical accounts establish that Mr. Reed lived and labored on the Clark Mills estate, also known as Meadow Bank Spa Spring Farm, located along Bladensburg Road in Northeast Washington, where the Statue of Freedom was cast and prepared for installation. The park proposed for designation is located adjacent to the former Mills estate and within the area historically associated with Mr. Reed's work and residence, establishing a meaningful geographic connection to his legacy. Officially designating the park in Lot 1 of Square 4351 as Philip Reed Memorial Park is a fitting tribute to Mr. Reed's contributions to the artistic and civic history of the district and serves to recognize the enduring impact of an individual whose labor and ingenuity helped shape a national symbol of freedom. This legislation was introduced on May 16th of this year by Councilmember Parker. Committee of the Whole held a hearing on July 3rd of this year. The committee received no testimony or comments in opposition to this legislation. Without objection, I move the print with leave for staff to make technical and conforming changes. Is there discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilmember Parker?
Thank you. I am thrilled to see this move forward. The naming of this park is yet another step that my team is leading in honoring African Americans with ties to the Ward 5 community. And as you mentioned in your introduction, Philip Reed leaves a lasting legacy. And I'm honored to have a park in Ward 5 named after him so that generations can learn about his contributions. I also think it's rich when we think about the Statue of Freedom on top of the Capitol and the history that is bestowed in that statue that we're memorializing today, even though some of the individuals in that building are working feverishly to erase history. And so I think what we're doing today in honoring Philip Reed is a milestone and hugely significant. I'll end by thanks. I want to thank the Woodridge Civic Association and in particular Jeremiah Montague, who lifted up Philip Reed and his contributions to our community. And again, I'm grateful to see this move forward. Thank you for your work on this, Mr. Chairman, and I look forward to voting for it.
Thank you, Councilmember. And Mr. Montague was one of the witnesses at the hearing. Is there further discussion on the print? The motion is to approve the print with leave for staff. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. I move the report with leave for staff to make technical conforming and editorial changes. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete?
Once the report and hearing record are filed.
Madam Budget Director, does the measure's fiscal impact statement comply with council requirement?
Yes, it does.
Without objection, this measure will be placed on the consent agenda for today's additional legislative meeting. That completes items for markup in the committee of the whole. We have a number of measures that were reported out of other committees. The first three measures were reported out of the Committee on Executive Administration and Labor, chaired by Councilmember Anita Bonds. Bill 26-233, Petition Administration Clarification Amendment Act of 2025. Councilmember Bonds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill will streamline our ballot access process by establishing a straightforward standard for use by the Board of Elections when evaluating ballot access petitions of candidates, initiatives, referendum, and recall campaigns. The current law enumerates many requirements related to petitions, including the form of the petition and circulatory affidavit, the timeline for the release of petitions, and the deadline for submission, the number of signatures required for each type of action, and specific requirement related to signature collection. However, nothing in the law addresses the legality of alterations or changes made to information added by a petition signer to the petition form. This bill will fix this issue by explicitly banning the alteration of information provided by the petition signer after they have signed the form. This change will allow for consistent resolution of petition challenges adjudicated by the Board of Elections and streamline the process we use to regulate ballot access in the district. The committee held a hearing on June 13th, 2025, and received testimony from more than 10 witnesses. All the public testimonies were in support of this bill and encouraged its markup and passage by the council. One thing that multiple witnesses wanted us to add to the bill was a clear ban on correctional fluid or tape. This includes whiteout fluid and correctional tape. We added that language to the version of the bill before us today. Thank you, Chairman, and I thank you for support of this legislation today.
Thank you, Councilmember Bonds. Are there questions from members? Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete?
Yes, it is.
Madam Budget Director, does the measure's fiscal impact statement comply with council requirements?
Yes, it does.
No fiscal impact?
No fiscal impact.
Without objection, this measure will be placed on the consent agenda for today's additional legislative meeting. The next measure is PR 26-233, Public Employees Relation Board, Peter Winkler Confirmation Resolution of 2025. Councilmember Bonds.
Thank you, Chairman. I urge my colleagues to vote in favor of PR 26359, Public Employee Relations Board, Peter Winkler Confirmation Resolution of 2025. Mr. Winkler's confirmation is his second reappointment to the Public Employee Relations Board, otherwise known as PERB, for a term to end on December 12, 2028. Without council action, the nomination to the PERB will be deemed disapproved on February 12, 2026. For brief background, the PERB is an impartial quasi-judicial independent agency that resolves labor management disputes between the agencies of the district government and unionized agency employees. The PERB is governed by a 5-member board, of which there are 2 vacancies. Mr. Winkler is a Ward 3 resident and an experienced labor relations professional and public administrator. Mr. Winkler has served as chief counsel and advisor to 5-member board and appears before the United States District Courts, the Court of Appeals, and the Supreme Court. Mr. Winkler has an aptitude for employee relations with the experience to match for continuality of the important work of the PERB. I urge my colleagues to confirm Mr. Winkler's nomination today. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilmember Bonds. Are there questions from members? Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete?
Yes, it is.
Madam Budget Director, this is a confirmation, so there is no fiscal impact statement.
Correct.
Without objection, this measure will be placed on the consent agenda for today's additional legislative meeting. The next measure is PR 26-304, District of Columbia Board of Elections, Karen Greenfield, Confirmation Resolution 2025. Councilmember Bonds.
Thank you again, Chairman. I urge my colleagues to vote in favor of PR 26-304, District of Columbia Board of Elections, Karen Greenfield, Confirmation Resolution of 2025. The resolution before us will confirm her reappointment for a term to end July 7, 2028. Without council action, this nomination will be deemed disapproved this week on December 17, 2025. Ms. Greenfield is a Ward 4 resident who received her Bachelor's of Science and doctorate degree from Duke University. She possesses 30 years of experience in local, state, and federal government contracting and procurement. Ms. Greenfield also has served on the Board of Elections since 2020. Her tenure on the Board of Elections includes the presidential primary and general elections of 2020 and 2024, which have presented unique obstacles for election offices across the nation. The committee had held a public roundtable on Ms. Greenfield's nomination on Friday, November 14th, 2025, followed by an additional roundtable for public witnesses on Tuesday, the 25th of November. No public witnesses appeared. Nevertheless, we held it just in case people wanted to put information on the record. With that, the committee has done its due diligence on the matter and urges the council to move forward with Ms. Greenfield's reappointment by voting in favor of the measure today. And thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilmember Bonds. Are there questions from members? Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete?
Yes, it is.
Madam Budget Director, this is a confirmation resolution, no fiscal impact.
Correct.
Without objection, this measure will be placed on the consent agenda for today's additional legislative meeting. The next measure was sequentially referred. I'm not sure who had it first. It's PR 26-108, sense of the council on supporting humane and trauma-informed responses to behavioral health crisis resolution of 2025. It was reported out by the Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety, chaired by Councilmember Pinto, and the Committee on Health, chaired by Councilmember Christina Henderson. Who's going to present this first?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm pleased to move this proposed resolution with my colleague, Councilmember Christina Henderson. Anyone can experience a behavioral health crisis, but particular populations are especially vulnerable to limited access to appropriate resources and care. Consider the following striking statistics. In FY 2022, the Metropolitan Police Department responded to more than 36,000 behavioral health crisis calls. In FY 2024, the Department of Behavioral Health Community Response Team responded to 5,671 calls, resulting in over 3,000 interventions. In FY 2024, there were almost 300,000 substance abuse and psychiatric emergency department visits. Public health is an important part of our public safety. Public safety is not just about what happens at the back end and law enforcement, but also meeting our fundamental needs and providing appropriate care. For example, the pre-arrest diversion task force that we enacted into law through my Secure DC omnibus last year reviews and assesses pre-arrest diversion, including for individuals experiencing behavioral health crises. And this is an important part of our goals. This resolution asserts that the district needs further resources to consistently meet national best practices for behavioral crisis response, given the prevalence of behavioral health calls and concerns in the district. It is imperative that the public safety and health response system be robustly resourced, trauma-informed, evidence-based, and adequately staffed. We're thankful to all the public witnesses who testified and shared their experiences and recommendations, and again, are grateful for the Committee on Health's leadership and partnership on this issue, as well as the feedback that we got from the mayor, from the Office of the Attorney General, and many of our agencies that led to the resolution that we are moving today. I do want to note just a minor discrepancy in terms of the training hours needed that I may need to work with Councilmember Henderson on as we proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Pinto. Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad we're at this day. I introduced this sense of the council resolution in February. Usually sense of the council resolutions don't take 8 months and a hearing, but we're here. Glad we are. It urges the mayor to take action to create a humane, trauma-informed, and healing-centered approach to responding to behavioral health crises. The resolution emphasizes that behavioral health professionals should be the default frontline responders responding to behavioral health crises rather than law enforcement. As Councilmember Pinto said, the bill was jointly referred and we closely collaborated to align public health and public safety priorities, and I want to thank Councilmember Pinto's team. The resolution was reorganized for clarity and to better link findings with actionable recommendations. It begins by outlining the behavioral health needs of district residents and the structure of the current multi-agency response. It then compares the district's system to national best practices, and recommendations follow the federal SAMHSA framework for a comprehensive crisis response system. Someone to talk to, someone to respond, and somewhere to go. I also want to thank the team from Harriet's Wildest Dreams, who were the original impetus for us working on this sense of the council resolution. And I look forward to continuing to work with our agency partners, including OUC, DBH, MPD, FEMS, that work on these issues each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from members, and actually I'm going to be first. Councilmember Pinto, did you say there was some issue that needs to still be worked out? Because this is on the consent agenda, assuming nobody objects, so it would have to be taken off of consent and fixed or amended or revised.
So maybe I could just ask it as a question to Councilmember Henderson.
Okay.
So there were a number of recommended edits to the sense of the council. And one of the things that we worked closely with MPD on is making sure that the pieces that we were recommending were implementable. And there's some difference of opinion on some of this, which is fine, but there was a training for officers that was described as 40 hours for behavioral health, which they thought was feasible. And then the committee print, when it went through the health committee, changed that to a 2-year training, which we hadn't seen before and didn't seem, the agency is concerned about that being implemented. So sorry to ask you on the spot this. I didn't realize we did not have a breakfast this morning. So that's just the one piece I wanted to raise. I was not intending to take this off consent. That was the only outstanding piece as I reviewed the final version.
Well, I didn't know that was a problem, but I would say this. So one, this is a sense of the council resolution and it's non-binding. I hope that MPD is able to move forward on some of these things, as MPD is often the first responder on some of these behavioral health calls. I think one of the things that was also very important from the public health standpoint was that the training not be one time, but it be ongoing. Myself, in the last month, have experienced 2 different situations of behavioral health related crises happening in the Columbia Heights Plaza, where one, I called 911, the other, I witnessed someone else calling 911 for 2 incidents. And I would tell you that everyone all of our agencies could use a refresher in terms of how you're dealing with the community in those particular incidents, not just when you're first coming on board.
Okay, I think that's a great point. So perhaps now, as the record has been clarified, we can just say that our intention is for the training to happen on an ongoing basis to make sure that best practices are continuing and that we are all learning. We just don't, I do not want people to be delayed from implementing this additional expertise under the theory that they have not completed the training because the language says 2 years. So now the record is clear, the training should happen on an ongoing basis, and we can move forward on consent.
So everyone's happy. Good. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman.
I have
Mr.
three.
Chairman.
Oh, Councilman Parker.
I think it's important to make the implicit explicit. And so either Councilmember Pinto or Henderson, what ideally would you like to see in the upcoming budget and or from the executive, given this sense of the council resolution?
That's an excellent question, Councilmember Parker.
Thank
So
you.
there are a couple of things that I would like to see. I haven't sent my budget letter to the mayor yet, so this is her great grand preview. But I do believe that we need a stabilization center east of the river. We have a stabilization center that's already on 25 K Street, but I think that's important. I think we need to see further investments in CHAMPS, which is the Child and Adolescent Mobile Psychiatric Response Team in terms of that work. The outreach that we have done on place space around substance abuse, Councilmember Brianne Nadeau introduced permanent legislation, which we held a hearing on last week on this, so investments in that. But I think we've also heard from lots of folks that we need more investments in crisis beds, observation units, respite centers. This needs to be a comprehensive response. Yes, we are doing much better in terms of fatal overdoses not happening here in the district, but our non-fatal overdose rate continues to rise. So we've only been able to stop the deaths because we have expanded the amount of Narcan and we have provided the education. But a lot of people who are living with substance use and behavioral health, they're comorbidities. And we're treating one without treating the other. And I think we need to take a more comprehensive approach, DBH being the lead. But when it comes to first responders, FEMS and MPD also need to understand as well, because often when you call 911, that's who you get first. So yeah.
If there are no other questions, I have three. Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete?
Yes.
Madam Budget Director, this is sent to the council. Would there be a fiscal impact statement?
There would not.
Without objection, this measure will be placed on the consent agenda for today's additional legislative meeting. The next 1, 2, 3 measures were reported out of the Committee on Health, chaired by Councilmember Christina Henderson. If there's no objection, the first two will be presented in block. PR 26-389, Board of Social Work, Angela Hardiman, Confirmation Resolution of 2025. And PR 26-390, Board of Social Work, Tracy Hamilton, Confirmation Resolution of 2025. Councilmember Henderson.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, you wanted me to move the Board of Social Work nominees in block?
Yes, both
Okay,
of them.
not a problem. All right. So PR 26-390 nominates Angela Hardiman to the Board of Social Work as a licensed graduate social work member, filling a vacant seat for a remainder of a term ending March 3rd, 2028. Ms. Hardiman works as a licensed graduate social work case manager at MedStar Health and teaches graduate social work students as an adjunct faculty at Howard University. She previously served as a permanent supportive housing monitor at the Department of Human Services and in roles supporting juvenile and youth services at the Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services, DC Superior Court, and the Public Defender Service. She holds a master's in social work from Howard University and is a Ward 7 resident. During the roundtable, I discussed with Ms. Hardiman her experience in child welfare and healthcare and her goal to expand awareness of the board's functions and consumer protections. PR 26-389 nominates Tracy Hamilton to the Board of Social Work as a licensed independent clinical social work member, filling a vacant seat for the remainder of a term ending March 3rd, 2027. Ms. Hamilton has more than 20 years of experience across social services, child welfare, and mental health. She currently serves as the lead social worker in discharge planning at Sibley Memorial Hospital. Previously, she served as the Family Services Director at Collaborative Solutions for Communities and as the chair of the Citizen Review Panel for Child Abuse and Neglect. She has held numerous roles at Child and Family Services, Volunteers of America, as well as in the district healthcare services. Her training includes cognitive behavioral therapy and crisis intervention. She earned her bachelor's of social work from the University of the District of Columbia and a master's of social work from Catholic University of America. She is a Ward 7 resident. At the roundtable, I discussed with Ms. Hamilton how her direct practice and supervision experience prepared her for board service and her goal to establish an ethics hotline to support timely guidance for social workers. Currently, there is only one active member of the Board of Social Work, and as my colleagues know, the Board of Social Work not only takes on scope of work, but they review the applications of licenses. They also review complaints for disciplinary measures. So it's vitally important that we approve these two individuals today so that the board can be back to not full capacity, but certainly better than the one person that is there. And since I have some remaining time, I'll do my PSA that I provide at all of my hearings on nominations. Serving on a mayoral board or commission is an excellent way to give back to your city and to your profession if you're licensed. And so if you're interested, there are lots of boards and committees that have vacancies. Please visit the Mayor's Office of Talent and Appointments and express your interest there. Thank you.
Other questions from members? I have three. Madam General Counsel, are these two measures legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, they are.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete for each?
Yes.
Madam Budget Director, these are confirmations, no fiscal impact?
Correct.
Without objection, these measures will be placed on the consent agenda for today's additional legislative meeting. Bill 26-414, Community Health Amendment Act of 2025. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I introduced Bill 26-414, the Community Health Amendment Act of 2025 on October 6th, along with you, Chairman, as well as Councilmembers Allen, Bonds, Fruman, Lewis George, Parker, Pinto, and Robert White. The bill will ensure that pharmacists can order and administer, and pharmacy technicians can also administer without a prescription, the immunizations needed to protect the public health of the district's residents, visitors, and workers. It would permanently codify the changes made by the council on an emergency and temporary basis through Bill 26-350 and Bill 26-351 that were approved at the September legislative meeting. Vaccines are evidence-based, safe, and extremely effective tools to protect the public from severe illness and death from infectious diseases. Even though certain populations like seniors and children and those who are immunocompromised are more likely to become severely ill, a basic tenet of public health is that vaccines work best when everyone, I repeat, everyone, including healthy individuals, are vaccinated. Unfortunately, recent federal actions have created uncertainty and confusion about the future of evidence-based federal immunization recommendations. 2 weeks ago, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, also known as ACIP, ignored science and leading medical organizations by reversing over a 3-decades-old recommendation that newborns be provided the hepatitis B vaccine. As a former CDC official stated, quote, "What this really means is that providers are going to be confused and that patients are going to be confused. And very often what confusion means is the wrong medical decision," end quote. At the public hearing on this bill, DC Health Director Dr. Ayanna Bennett echoed this sentiment, stating that this bill is critical to enable the district to have consistent, evidence-based vaccine guidance to avoid confusion among providers and patients regarding what is recommended for their age group and risk factors. In September, several large pharmacy chains announced that they would not offer certain vaccines in some states, including the district, where local laws tied pharmacists' ability to independently administer a vaccine to federal immunization recommendations. Although the emergency and temporary legislation passed the council, this permanent bill is needed for a longer-term solution. As I said, this would permanently codify the things that we mentioned before. In 2025, DC Health considered the recommendations of the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Academy of Family Physicians, and the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. This bill language also aligns language for our consent for vaccines for minors law with this new standard. I urge my colleagues to approve this legislation as we did in September. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilmember. Are there questions from members?
Yeah, Chairman.
Councilmember Trahan White.
Thank you, Councilmember Henderson. I noticed that in your committee report, you stated that this will align with the language in our consent for vaccines for minors and this new standard. I know we passed, during the COVID, we passed legislation that allow for pharmacists, doctors to give vaccination without parent consent. Is that the same thing or is that different from when you say this aligns without consent for vaccine for minors?
So we have a separate consent for vaccines for minor laws, which required conforming amendments to, I guess, refer to this part of the code. So we are not changing the existing law as it exists for that. This is just a conforming amendment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember White. Further questions? Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete?
Yes, it is.
Madam Budget Director, does the measure's fiscal impact statement comply with council requirements?
Yes, it does.
Is there a fiscal impact?
There is not.
Without objection, this measure will be placed on the consent.
Chairman, we'll
agenda.
ask to take this off the consent agenda.
Yes, this will be on the non-consent agenda. This will be on the non-consent agenda. The next measure is PR 26-367, Public Benefit Security. It should be Bill 26-367, Public Benefit Security Amendment Act of 2025. Councilmember Fruman.
Thank you, Chairman Mendelson. B 26-0367 was introduced by me along with council members Nadeau, Allen, Pinto, Bonds, Lewis George, Parker, Henderson, and Robert White on September 24th, 2025. It was referred to the Committee on Human Services on October 7th, 2025, heard on October 30th, 2025, and marked up on December 10th, 2025 with unanimous support. The legislation addresses public benefits theft, which has totaled more than $10 million in the district over the past 3 years. Many residents have discovered while trying to purchase food that their balance was zero and their benefits were stolen, leaving them unable to meet basic needs. While the Department of Human Services has committed to restoring stolen benefits through this fiscal year, it cannot guarantee it will continue to do so, and no district or federal law requires DHS to restore benefits. The bill responds by better protecting benefits from theft and establishing a clear process for restoring stolen benefits. First, the bill requires DHS to move from electronic benefit transfer, or EBT, cards with magnetic stripes to more secure cards with chips. The current swipe cards are easy to skim and clone. Chip cards, however, generate a one-time code that cannot be replicated and will better protect residents' benefits. DHS expects new chip cards to reduce theft by about 75%. Second, the bill creates a process for reimbursing residents whose benefits are stolen. When bank customers are victims of fraud, they can recover their stolen funds. Families with EBT cards should have that same protection. Finally, the bill extends the flexible rent subsidy pilot program known as DC Flex for 1 year. DC Flex provides a fixed annual subsidy that helps cover a portion of households' monthly rent, which is the district's only shallow rent subsidy. Early this year, I introduced and held a hearing on the Flexible Rent Subsidy Program Amendment Act of 2025, which would make DC Flex permanent. This 1-year extension of the pilot allows the council to review a forthcoming report on the pilot before considering that permanent legislation. I want to thank the advocates and DHS officials who worked with us to strengthen this bill. I'm also grateful to Councilmember Christina Henderson and her staff for their oversight of benefits theft and help gathering critical data. The bill before us will protect district residents from benefits theft and ensure there is a reliable process to restore stolen funds. I look forward to advancing it today. With that, Mr. Chairman, I ask this measure be placed on the consent agenda for today's legislative meeting.
Thank you, Councilmember Fruman. Are there questions from members?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Councilmember Fruman, for moving this forward. Can you just speak more to DHS's apprehension in replacing stolen funds in the future and what relief there might be for residents should that happen.
It is not built into the budget at this point, so DHS doesn't have the funds in the budget to be able to do that. We'll hear about the fiscal impact of this. There is a fiscal impact, and protecting stolen benefits in the future has a cost, so they don't want to write a check that they can't cash. In the meantime, this process is intended to create that security and a system to ensure that folks can get their benefits in a reasonable amount of time.
Thank you. Well, I think this is really important. I think with all of the uncertainty with the federal changes, this bill is important. So thank you for your leadership on it.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete?
Yes, it is.
Madam Budget Director, does the measure's fiscal impact statement comply with council requirements?
Yes, it does.
Is there a fiscal impact?
There is 1.4 million in 26 and 5.4 million over the plan.
Thank you. Without objection, this measure will be placed on the consent agenda for today's additional legislative meeting. That's going to conclude the business of this committee of the whole. The agenda says next legislative meeting is Tuesday, January 6th. However, the next legislative meeting is actually in about 5 minutes. So with that, about 5 minutes to set up. The time is 12:14 p.m. and this meeting's adjourned. I'm calling to order this meeting. This is a legislative meeting of the Council of the District of Columbia. It's an additional meeting, meaning it's not a regularly scheduled legislative meeting. It is the 21st legislative meeting at Council Period 26. Today is Tuesday, December 16th, 2025. The time is 12:26 in the afternoon. We are in room 500 of the Council Chambers of the John A. Wilson Building. And this meeting is being broadcast on cable channel 13, and it is also available on the council's website, www.dccouncil.gov. We always begin our legislative meetings with a moment of silence. The last legislative meeting we had, I noted, and it was very sad, the assassination of one of the National Guardsmen in the city. The violence doesn't seem to stop, and not only do we continue to see homicides and attempted homicides in the district, but the news the last couple of days has been filled with a lot of violence. Bondi Beach in Australia, which appeared to be an anti-Semitic act, killing quite a number of folks, and the mass killing at Brown University over the weekend. It's just quite amazing, and maybe something we should reflect on for a moment of silence. If we could have silence in the council chambers, please. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Allen,
Here.
Councilmember Bonds,
Here.
Councilmember Felder,
Present.
Councilmember Freeman,
Present.
Councilmember Henderson,
Here.
Councilmember Lewis George.
Here.
Councilmember McDuffie,
Here.
Chairman Mendelson.
Present.
Councilmember Nadeau, Councilmember Parker,
Here.
Councilmember Pinto,
Present.
Councilmember Robert White,
Present.
Councilmember Trayon White.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We have the consent agenda. I'm aware of 2 items removed. On page 2, at the top of the page, in item C3, Community Health Amendment Act of 2025, that's Bill 26-414. And on page 3, under emergency contract legislation, item G1, which is PR 26-439, modification number 6 and 7 to contract number DCAM-22-CS-RFP-0019 with Smoot Construction. So those 2 items are removed. Are there any other changes to the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, Councilmember Henderson.
So under section A of the consent agenda, number 2 and 3 are this, is it on a,
Are you looking at the revised agenda timestamp 6:16 PM?
oh, because my staff, we do it. Yeah,
We love our
Night.
staff.
so,
So
Okay.
just to be clear, under the ceremonials are number 1, Coolidge Senior High, number 2, Joan A.T. Kelly, number 3, Coolidge.
okay,
school.
so there is also that was gonna be my other one.
And number 4 is Fanny Robinson. It's turning 100. So I have 2 changes to the consent agenda. Community Health Amendment and modifications number 6 and 7 to the contract with Smoot Construction. Hearing no other changes to the consent agenda, the vote will be on the consent agenda as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. Bill 26-414, Community Health Amendment Act of 2025, Councilmember Henderson.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Is there discussion? The vote will be on Bill 26-414. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Hearing
Oh,
none.
Chairman,
What's
please-
that, Councilmember White?
please vote me is voting no.
What's going on?
The ayes have it. Councilmember Trayon White will be recorded as voting no. PR 26-439, modification numbers 6 and 7 to contract number DCAM-22-CS-RFP-0019 with Smoot Construction Company of Washington, D.C. Approval and payment authorization emergency declaration resolution of 2025. Councilmember Lewis George.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a contract modification that we were making at the request. The emergency contract is for construction management at-risk services for the DC Infrastructure Academy at Spingarn High School. The legislation is to approve 2 modifications for DGS contract with Smoot Construction to build out the District of Columbia Infrastructure Academy at Spingarn High School building in Ward 5. The project has had change orders due to unforeseen site and building conditions that require expanding the scope of the project, and such as the roof, waterproofing, undocumented electric, and other utilities at the site are some examples. This emergency approval is necessary to ensure DGS can expand the scope and keep the project on time. The project will have a final completion date of April 21st, 2026. I took the contract off the consent agenda only to make a technical amendment at the request of the Office of General Counsel. And so at this time, I would move the emergency bill.
Thank you. So we have the declaration before us. Is there further discussion? The vote will be on the declaration, PR 26-439. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. The underlying bill is Bill 26-528. Councilmember Lewis George.
So moved.
And do you have an amendment?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. This amendment is simply a technical change to strike citations to 1 section of the Procurement Practices Reform Act and 2 sections of the Small and Certified Business Enterprise Development and Assistance Act that were included in the executive's e-filed version of the legislation, but are unrelated to the council's contract approval authority. With that, I move the amendment.
So have you circulated your amendment?
Yes.
All right, and General Counsel has it?
Yes.
And sitting next to me, General Counsel is saying yes. If there's no objection, the amendment will be accepted. Hearing no objection, the amendment is accepted. We have the bill as amended before us. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor,
Mr. Chairman.
Councilmember Bonds.
Thank you very much. To Councilwoman Lewis George, can you please tell me what's in the amendment again? I know you mentioned some of the, okay, thanks.
Thank you. The legislation includes language that approves the contract and in quote, notwithstanding 3 sections that are not related to the council's authority to approve contract modifications. So section 403 of the PPRA related to seal proposals, section 2243 of the Small and Certified Business Enterprise Development and Assistance Act to bid and proposal preferences, and section 2346D2 requires a subcontracting plan. The proposal period is long over, as the contract was approved in August of 2023. And so Office of General Counsel has advised this language would be insufficient to waive these requirements if that is the intent to do so, as council approval of modifications does not immunize the contract from its obligation under other laws.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I would add that you're moving that amendment on the advice of General Counsel.
That is correct, Chairman.
And that amendment has been accepted without objection. So we have the bill as amended. There's no further discussion. The vote is on 26-528. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the bill as amended is approved. Turning to the non-consent agenda, the first item is PR 26-431, Department of Parks and Recreation funding reprogramming request number 26-0097, disapproval resolution for 2025. That's PR 26-431, Councilmember Trayon White.
Thank you, Chairman. I do want to ask my colleagues to deny this request to reprogram $2 million from Congress Heights and $5 million from Anacostia Pool to do the work at the Southeastern Tennis Learning Center. To be quite frank, there was originally no real appetite for a new tennis center in Ward 8. Well, there have been several requests for other things involving recreation spaces and opportunities for families to connect and play. That has been gone unnoticed, and for a decade or so, Ward 8 has consistently been neglected in those areas. We've had meetings, conversations, even put money in the budget, several millions of dollars to correct this, and now we're at a place where we're just hearing that this is not happening due to what is called unforeseen difficulties. I want to point to 4 specific issues. During the reprogramming enhancement, based on DC Code 47-362B, it is not allowed, but there's an allowance for unusual circumstances stated in DC Code 47-362D. I do want to walk through this real quickly. The administration sent a letter for reprogramming that has several pages. I want to point out on page 6, the reprogramming request documentation in response to the question, does this reprogramming establish a new program or change allocations specifically denied, limited, or increased by the council in the Budget Act, the company budget report, or markup sheets? The response was no. I want to say for a fact that this is not true. The Committee on Facilities report and the markup sheet clearly provided what the enhancement is to be used for, and that was to be used to fund Congress Heights net zero energy capital infrastructure. Issue number 2 was the reprogramming request said that regarding the Southeastern Tennis Learning Center, that the upgrade to this facility began in December 2024. However, the project has faced several unforeseen site and regulatory issues, including unsuitable soil conditions. They are saying this is unforeseen when in fact, DGS noted on November the 10th in the conversation I had and in the report that it had unusual soil conditions prior to the development even starting with the project. And DGS knew that the soil had chemicals in it due to initial testing, so this is not unforeseen. Also, point number 3, on Anacostia Park Pool, the reprogramming request in one place states that Anacostia Park replacement received a combined $7 million in funding to address initial scope and delivery needs. However, in the current allocation, does fully cover the total cost of the project. But if you look on page 7, that's on page 4. If you look on page 7, it says that the reprogramming request states that Anacostia Pool replacement project receives funding in FY20. Can I have a minute more, Chairman?
Without objection.
Thank you. The Anacostia Pool replacement project received funding for FY25 and 26 up to $7 million to address the scope and delivery needs. However, the total budget allocation does not meet sufficient amount to execute the project. So on page 4, it says it does fully have the money to do it. On page 7, it says it does not. The justification for reprogramming contains contradictory information. This is inconsistent and unreliable. I do want to go down real quick to Congress Heights project. If not for the enhancement, DGS and DPR would not have found an additional $2 million to put towards another project, which goes against the need of what it was allocated for when Councilman G. Lewis George put the money in the budget specifically to cover the net zero costs. And so they took money from this project, which they cannot do to supplement another project. The executive has indicated that this $2 million they want to reprogram from Congress Heights is not a part of the council enhancement, but thus we received additional information that it was. And this is also in their report on page 6. And so there are a lot of contradictories to this reprogramming, and we wish that the council push the executive to find other funding outside of taking it from one community to put it against another community. We believe that all communities should be equity funded. And we should not be cutting money from other projects, even though they say they want to put it back, which we don't know if they're going to do or not. They say that all the time, and sometimes they don't do it. I encourage my colleagues to support this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember White. Discussion on this resolution? I will ask this of you, Councilmember White. What discussions have you had with the executive in the last 2 weeks?
I spoke to the director of DGS, Delano Hunter, yesterday. I spoke to I initially spoke to Director of DPR, Thaney Freeman. I spoke to the mayor about this as well as her staff a few weeks ago. That's been an ongoing conversation. We even had a community meeting at Rehoboth Baptist Church and regarding Congress Heights and the Southeast Tenant Learning Center, and also Douglas, which the gym was also removed from Douglas. So there's been a
Well, my
lot of
question was,
conversations back and
what
forth.
conversations? So have you tried to work anything out with the mayor?
To be quite frank, the mayor and her administration is against net zero and using this as a casualty to push the council to take it out of the law because they don't support it, they don't believe in it. That's the foundation of
Thank
this whole
you.
argument.
Further on this? The vote will be on PR 26-431. All those in
I want to
favor,
ask for a roll call, Chairman.
Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Chairman Mendelson?
No.
Chairman Mendelson votes no. Councilmember Nadeau?
Aye.
Councilmember Nadeau votes yes. Councilmember Parker?
No.
Councilmember Parker votes no. Councilmember Pinto?
No.
Councilmember Pinto votes no. Councilmember Robert White?
No.
Councilmember Robert White votes no. Councilmember Trayon White?
Yes.
Councilmember Trayon White votes yes. Councilmember Allen?
No.
Councilmember Allen votes no. Councilmember Bonds?
No.
Councilmember Bonds votes no. Councilmember Felder?
Present.
Councilmember Felder will be recorded as present. Councilmember Fruman?
Yes.
Councilmember Fruman votes yes. Councilmember Henderson?
No.
Councilmember Henderson votes no. Councilmember Lewis George?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis George votes yes. Councilmember McDuffie?
Yes.
Councilmember McDuffie votes yes. Mr. Chairman, there are 5 yeses, 7 nos, and 1 present.
The measure fails. The next measure on the agenda is PR 26-382 fiscal year 2027 budget submission requirements resolution of 2025. This resolution is largely the same as the budget submission resolution requirements resolution we adopted last year, which was largely the same as the budget submission resolution we adopted the previous year, which is largely the same as the budget resolution adopted the year before that. There are some updates as the budget office becomes clearer on information that we want presented with the budget. This resolution sets forth the date for submission of the budget, which is April 1st, and it also sets forth the information that we want when the budget is submitted. So don't assume that the budget just comes with budget books. It comes with budget books and other information that is in response to this resolution. This resolution was introduced at least a month ago, and members have had an opportunity to submit comments for any changes to it. I do have an amendment. I probably should say so moved, so I'll say so moved. The resolution is before us. I circulated an amendment yesterday that corrected a couple of dates. Instead of saying, having a reference in section 3.3G to fiscal year 2027, it's fiscal year 2026, and section 5, instead of saying 2025, it says 2026. So if there's no objection, the amendment will be accepted. And hearing no objection, it is accepted. And so we have the revised or amended resolution before us. Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilmember Parker?
I appreciate you moving this resolution. I saw reports that the mayor is already sharing that there may be delays and I'm wondering if you have insights into that. I also recall last year's budget being significantly delayed. And a question that comes to mind is, what consequences are there for this April 1st, 2026 date not being honored?
So I met with the city administrator last Friday to discuss the submission date. I had this discussion at least once prior to that. went over potential schedules for the budget submission. A submission later than April 1st begins to interfere with the primary, or the primary election interferes with the budget, which I strongly feel we should avoid. I'm hesitating only because I don't like the idea of trying to characterize what someone else is saying, but I would say that April 1st is doable. And when I read the mayor's letter last week and I read the mayor's letter today, she refers to extraordinary circumstances such as a congressional action. Well, if there's a congressional action, then we will meet, we at the council will meet and reconsider the date. The city administrator did agree that he and I will meet regularly beginning in January to discuss process. That's not content, but process, so that if there are things that are coming up, as I said to him, if he has a problem, then we have a problem in terms of getting the budget done. So these process meetings will be occurring at least weekly to help move things along and honor the date. You asked about consequences. We adopted in the Budget Support Act last year, I think it was in the Budget Support Act, consequences which had to do with no NPS expenditures could be made during the period that the budget is late.
And that would carry over into next year as well?
It is in the law,
Got
so it
it.
would apply.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Chairman.
Councilmember Robert White.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate you moving this forward. I think it is important that the council and the public have a clear expectation on when we'll get the budget. This year, the mayor's budget proposal was very late, and some things were beyond our control. But as we got further along, and it was clear that when Congress stole our money, that they weren't going to give it back, and I think we needed to move, but we left the council and the public without enough time to do enough due diligence. Transparency, predictability is very important, and the council is a co-equal branch of government, and we have to go through a process as well. And so I think, we, under normal course and the statute, there is a lot of time for the mayor to develop her budget proposal. There is a small amount of time for the council to consider it and amend it, and that time is important. So I appreciate you moving this forward, and I look forward to supporting it.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, the vote will be on PR 26-382 as amended by that amendment that I had. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Are there any opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. We'll turn to emergency legislation. The first is PR 26-479, Ward 8 Recreation Facility Emergency Declaration Resolution of 2025. Councilmember Tran White.
Thank you, Chairman. We'll be withdrawing this measure today, but I did want to speak to it briefly. There has been long overdue for access to recreation for youth and young adults in Ward 8. In fact, as you heard me speak several times, there's been at least 10 recreation centers closed in Ward 8 in the last 15 years. And as noted, Ward 8 has more youth than any other ward in Washington, D.C., and more crime. And I think that if we say we want safe spaces for people to go, young adults, children, pets, then we have to create those things. And the budget is a moral document of what we believe in. I've consistently worked to money in the budget so the community can get what they need. We've been working on this since 2017. It is now 2025, and we're still having the same discussions. And the executive is figuring out ways not to give the community what they want and deserve. And so we've come to a place where there's new legislation, meaning net zero, that impacted this. It was corrected by the council through Councilman Janice Lewis George by putting an additional $5 million in the budget to make sure that we had a pool. And working with the administration, we did not land in the same space. So it is our desire to still fighting to make sure we get what we want in our community. And that is a gym in Douglas. We cannot say we can put $25 million to a project and say that we don't have enough money for a gym. That's crazy in 2025. We prioritize what we want to see in our city. We didn't have money for the Capital One. We found $500 million overnight. Then by the time we got to a vote, it was at 520 million. And I can go on and on between the commanders, whatever else our priorities are. And so it seems to me that we have to continue to fight in Ward 8 for equity and inclusion in this budget. We talk about it all the time, but when it comes down to money, we get the short end of the stick. And so we can continue to organize and get the voice of the people out. And it's sad that this council has been complicit in this type of behavior. So I'll digress there, and we'll continue to have more conversation and dialogue in the community, especially around these election times, what we want to see happen in Ward 8. Thank you.
So the measure is withdrawn. The next measure is Energy Efficiency Financing Debt Cap Emergency Declaration Resolution Act of 2025, PR 26-478. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The Energy Efficiency Financing Act of 2010 established the Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy, or the CPACE program in the district. The CPACE program facilitates private financing for energy efficiency, renewable energy, and water efficiency improvements, which borrowers repay through a special assessment on the property's tax bill. When this was first established, the CPACE program operated as a bonding program through which the district would issue bonds to support energy efficiency upgrades. Back when this was created 15 years ago, the act established a $250 million aggregate bond cap for CPACE projects, which remains in place today. The committee report for the bill back in 2010 does not discuss why a $250 million bond cap was placed on the program, and it appears the limitation was added while the program was still in a proof of concept phase, something we are well beyond now. In 2012, the district amended the original program to enable direct investment in CPACE projects from private capital providers. Under this model, the district still issues a note for that private investment, even though it does not actually act as a lender in these cases. Later in 2021, the DC Green Finance Authority, or what we call the DC Green Bank, assumed administration of the CPACE program. Even though the district is not obligated in any privately financed CPACE deal, the act has been interpreted such that the bond cap still applies. But I just want to be very clear here. While the district has created the CPACE to fund sustainability upgrades, CPACE is 100% driven by private investment with no public funds expended. In fact, the DC Green Bank, as the program administrator, receives both a 20% basis point administration fee throughout the term of the PACE loan, as well as a one-time origination fee. These collective fees support the DC Green Bank's administrative and operational expenses. Currently, the CPACE program is utilizing $184 million of the $250 million cap space, leaving only $66 million for additional financing capacity. The DC Green Bank has determined that the CPACE program market demand exceeds its capacity given the bond cap. More specifically, the DC Green Bank has identified an opportunity to issue bonds in the principal amount of $470 million in partnership with Nuveen to finance the installation of energy efficiency improvements at the Geneva, located at 1825 to 1875 Connecticut Avenue Northwest, before the end of the calendar year. The Geneva is an office building consisting of 2 towers that will be converted into a 14-story, 532-unit residential building. However, issuing bonds for this project would exceed the Act's statutory limit on the principal amount of bonds that may be issued. This isn't just a problem for this deal, as the DC Green Bank anticipates an increasing number of larger CPACE deals in the near future, for example, the development of RFK site or other surrounding areas. That's why the legislation removes the bond cap entirely, and it's possible the district will keep running up against the bond cap as it facilitates private investment in the district. Furthermore, after a review of its peers in other jurisdictions, the DC Green Bank has determined that it's not common for entities like the Green Bank to have a cap placed at all on the bonds they can issue, particularly in cases when the enabling jurisdiction is not incurring any liability for these deals. This legislation, therefore, is necessary to remove the limitation on the principal amount of bonds that may be issued under the Act and ensure the Green Bank can continue to spur private investment for energy efficiency upgrades in the district. With that, Mr. Chair, I move the declaration.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. We have the declaration before us. Is there discussion? Councilmember Lewis George.
Thank you, Councilman Allen, for introducing the legislation. I see what you all are trying to do, and I, of course, support building more housing, especially when more affordable units will be delivered. But I do want to ask a few questions regarding this project. It's a 532-unit development. How many of the units will be affordable, and at what level?
Through the chair.
Yes.
So my understanding is that their proposal is for 61 of the homes to be affordable at 60% of AMI and below, 42 to be extended stay units with a 1-month minimum, and then 429 market rate units.
is there any way for there to be a larger percentage of deeply affordable housing within a 532 unit building?
There certainly could be, not within the legislation that's in front of us today, but certainly working with the Green Bank or others, those would be elements of the deal that could be negotiated. Again, this is the specifics of that project are separate from what's in front of us because this is just dealing with that, essentially the bonding cap that exists.
Understood.
There's nothing we could do, for example, within this legislation to make a requirement, but we certainly could work with the DC Green Bank and others to see where.
To increase that affordability because it's 532 units.
Yep.
How many CPACE projects are currently supported by the 184 million already committed under the existing bond cap? And how does the average project size compare to the proposed 470 million allocation for the Geneva?
Wait, could you repeat that again? Sorry.
How many CPACE projects are currently supported by the 184 million already committed under the existing bond cap? And how does the average project size compare to the proposed 470 million allocation for the Geneva?
Got it. I would need to get the Green Bank to get you these specifics on past projects. This would, specific to the question you have about the Geneva, this would be one of the largest ever, which is why it exceeds the cap. What they've also told us from the Green Finance Authority is that they are seeing the market demand, not just here in the district, but everywhere else. This is going to continue to be a private financing strategy.
Got it.
That continues to put more and more resources in. And so the cap, one of the reasons when they looked at the cap compared to other jurisdictions just don't have one.
Got it.
And I think that, and we tried to look at why 15 years ago when the council set this up, they landed on the number 250. The committee report is silent to that. So it's a little unclear. My assumption is going to be that they wanted to probably put that cap in as a proof of concept. And now that we've seen this, so I think the fact that we see the market demand coming in with bigger and bigger projects, that's part of the rationale. But to compare previous projects to this one would be difficult simply because this is going to be such a large project.
Okay. And one last question, if I may, Chairman, because
Without objection.
you mentioned RFK. So I'm wondering, once the bond cap is removed, what binding limits will exist to prevent, I guess, future CPACE deals from being overcapitalized, particularly as larger projects come online at the RFK site and nearby areas? I think we just recently seen this issue come up in the news with properties like the Ethel. So I'm just curious what you've heard in regards to that.
So the legislation here is emergency in nature. So it's only going to be in effect for 90 days and the temporary, obviously. So for any long-term financing, for example, an RFK site or any other site, we're going to have to be evaluating this through permanent legislation.
Okay. And that's the intention?
Yes.
Okay. Look forward to that. Thank you, Chairman.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilmember Parker.
Thank you. I plan to support this, and I'm going to ask some questions more so for the people watching. One, thank you for moving this, Councilmember Allen. I think it's important, and it promises to open a pathway for more affordable housing in the district, more sustainable affordable housing in the district, which we all should be supporting. Removing this cap, is that for this project or all future projects? Is it just for this project or all future projects?
The time-sensitive part of why it's an emergency is because of this project.
Got it.
What we see, though, in other jurisdictions, other peer jurisdictions, other cities, is that they don't even have a cap. So I do believe it is likely that that is the long-term answer across the board. But this project specifically is why the emergency exists. And without removing this cap, we would be unable to leverage the private investment that could be coming in here.
Understood. And I know funding for the Green Bank has been a challenge and a priority for yours as it has been for the T&E committee. It is my understanding that allowing this project to go forward will provide a funding mechanism of sorts for the Green Bank. Is that accurate?
Yes. One of the challenges that we have all faced is the DC Green Bank. We want to be able to have the DC Green Bank become and reach a place where it is essentially self-sustaining. And so, as I mentioned, the basis points that the DC Green Bank or the Finance Authority receives for facilitating private investment like this starts to become the type of private money that essentially they are able to use to help sustain themselves, meaning we have to put less public money into for the sustained operations.
I think that is a win. And my team did some digging on this, and it seems as though the AMI is around 60%, which I think is a decent threshold for affordability. Obviously, we want to keep pushing for more towards deeply affordable housing, but the headline here for the public is that this would be one of the largest, if not the largest, of these types of developments that will bring on more deeply affordable housing and benefit the Green Bank at the same time for future development. And so for that reason, I look forward to supporting it. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And correct, it is moving from a office building, so no residential units, into all residential, and that those aspects of the 60% AMI and below. Certainly, again, to our colleague's point, those are conversations that continue to happen around the deal to see where it can be improved even further. But that is separate from the vote. Like the specifics of that deal are separate from the vote that's in front of us right now.
My goodness. This is a short meeting. I didn't know this measure was
I
controversial.
think this is a really important emergency, Mr. Chairman, so I
our
welcome the
hands.
questions and
I
conversations.
think that's just a sign, Councilmember Allen, that you, this is an important piece of legislation. Councilmember Pinto, and then who was the second hand? Councilmember Robert White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you so much, Councilmember Allen, for moving this today. As this property is in Ward 2, I just wanted to add my enthusiastic support. And I think this is the exact type of creative financing and projects that we need to move forward that are going to beget additional development. And so we welcome this, and I'm excited to have it move forward and again incentivize other similar projects that we need to see across the district. So thank you very much for your work on this.
Was there a question there? Councilmember Robert White? Councilmember Robert White?
Thank you, Chairman. This bill is a common sense solution to promote energy efficiency. It removes an outdated cap that's getting in the way of green building projects that are privately financed and already proven to work. This is a good reminder that sometimes our biggest obstacle isn't ambition, it's old rules that don't meet the current need. If we're serious about energy efficiency, we have to make it easier to deliver projects, and we can do both things at once. We can have high efficiency standards that don't slow down housing production or make a project financially impossible. By removing this cap, we encourage investment and innovation in large buildings and complex developments, which is a win both for residents and for the environment. Sometimes we need to revisit existing rules and see if they need adapting to current circumstances. That's what this bill does, and I appreciate Councilmember Allen bringing it forward. Thank you, Chairman. I look forward to supporting this bill.
Oh, thank you. Anything further on this?
Chairman,
Councilman Fruman.
thank you very much. Just want to make sure I 100% understand this. I believe that I'm totally in support of this. Am I right that the Green Bank financing finances that component of the project that allows for green energy as opposed to being full financing for the whole development?
There might be questions within your question. When you say the Green Financing Authority, so when we're using public dollars, we use and facilitate the DC Green Bank to make public investments. This is speaking specifically to the private side. So these are all private dollars that be coming in. And the Green Bank essentially, think of them as a facilitator in this example, where they're facilitating the private investment.
In support of the green dimensions of the project or in support of the project in its entirety?
For the project, but with the energy efficiencies built in. Exactly.
Okay.
Like, for example, if this was a project that didn't have the energy efficiencies, this would not be something the Green Finance Authority would be a part of at all.
Okay. And then these are not, it's private dollars. They're not tax exempt bonds. It's not as if we're taking a limited pool of tax exempt financing and using it in this way. it's this non-tax exempt financing that's
I
being
believe that's
provided.
correct.
Okay. And then it's an emergency and a temporary, so it's lifting a cap, but that cap would, I guess, snap back at the expiration of the temporary unless we do permanent legislation between now and then?
Correct, which is what we plan on working on,
All right,
which I
wonderful.
think was related to a question from the other side of the dais. Yeah,
Okay, very much look forward to supporting this.
thank you very much.
Anything further? Councilmember Allen, do you want a second or third round?
Motion to close debate, Mr. Chair.
All right, since nobody else has asked to be recognized, the vote is on PR 26-478, which is the declaration. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. We have the underlying bill, Bill 26-535. Councilmember Allen,
So move, Mr. Chair.
is there discussion? On the bill, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. The next measure is PR 26-480, Ranked Choice Voting Implementation Clarification Declaration Resolution of 2025. Councilmember Bonds?
Yes. Thank you, Chairman. Today, I urge my colleagues to vote yes on this matter to provide the Board of Elections with the opportunity to successfully implement ranked choice voting by affording them more time. The emergency that I'm presenting today does not litigate whether ranked choice voting should or should not be used in the district, as it is perfectly clear that Initiative 83 was passed by the DC electorate in 2024 election year, and therefore you and I expect this implementation in the district. The question before us today is, when can it be implemented with accuracy and assurance that the public has received adequate training to understand not just how to mark one's ballot for one or more candidates by ranking one's choices, but equally important is how will one's votes be tallied? All of this means, does the city have adequate time to educate and demonstrate how the initiative works for the estimated more than 400,000 that are likely to participate in the 26 election contest? And this estimate does not include the 154 locations across the city that the board traditionally reaches out to providing voter education, nor does it include DC jail, assisted living facilities, nursing homes, high schools, universities, churches, and faith-based institutions, the blind, deaf, and our homeless populations, all that must be educated, given opportunities to participate in demonstrations on the use of the voting equipment, explanations on how their vote will be tallied. The message should not be lost upon us that the Board of Elections must administer an election using an entirely new voting system, new to the voters, election volunteers, and the board as a whole. And while many of us have private discussions with the board's executive director, Monica Evans, and she has shared reservations as well as indications that the agency will move forward. My presentation today is based upon the public record created during the November Public Roundtable. It was held on November 24th, and the readiness for the 2026 election was the issue. To provide a summary, the scope of the roundtable examined the board's preparation, implementation plans, and education strategies to successfully execute ranked choice voting for the very first time, and to do all of this within the next 6 months. We asked the board pointed questions. May I?
Without objection.
Thank you. We asked the board pointed questions on how they plan to deliver voter education to all voters without prejudice towards age, national origin, income, race, disability, most proficient language, or ward of residency in the district. We all know that the Board of Elections has always worked tirelessly to ensure that the district have fair and accessible elections. And the implementation of ranked choice voting is not the board's first challenge that they've encountered. Moreover, the board's performance is not called into question regarding ranked choice voting. Contrarily, during our examination of the Board of Elections, we were confronted with a lack of clear and affirmative answers on implementation. And that is the issue before us today. The board needs more time and additional resources to implement the new voting process. A one-year delay is what is being proposed. The agency could not definitively commit to conducting sufficient outreach to district residents before the June primary. And that should be concerning for all of us. Since the hearing, the board has indicated the unlikelihood and impossibility of conducting the necessary public outreach education during 2026 that we anticipated. It's not reasonable governance to push forward simply for the sake of moving forward without real consideration about the life consequences. Upon examination of the Board of Elections' time to implement and roll out ranked choice voting, the director shared that with us that she felt that we've been set up for failure, she said. In fact, the agency plans to develop a plan for implementation in the coming weeks. Then begin in, I'm estimating, January 2026, staff will begin the implementation. Colleagues, we should take this position seriously and listen to those responsible for implementation. It is clear that January through June 26 is an unacceptable calendar. It's not enough time to prepare to implement and execute any new large-scale process that will have an impact on thousands of our residents. And I won't talk about our senior population. The issue of ranked choice voting is simple. It's a new way of evaluating candidates for election to public office. The old practice of casting one vote for your one choice will be changed with ranked choice voting. Is this what DC wants for our elections? With that, with all that we have at stake during this pivotal election season, and with the federal government watching us closely, is this what we want? With that, I ask my colleagues to consider voting in favor of providing the Elections Board with adequate timing and funding to successfully implement this new voting method for the sake of district residents. Thank you so very much, Chairman.
All right, in the
And my
future,
colleagues.
in the
Thank you.
future, if you could have your staff time your remarks, because you were 5 minutes, 5.5 minutes.
I had so
And I think
much
there's
to
several
say,
members
Chairman.
who are mad at me now.
Oh, they're not mad. They do it every so often themselves. So they're not mad.
All right, we have the declaration before
Thank
us. Is there discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilmember Felder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be very brief. I'm proud to co-sponsor this resolution with Councilwoman Bonds. I've said this before, and I'll say it again and again and again and again and again. The Board of Elections is not ready to implement ranked choice voting. Not only was this evident during the roundtable discussion that was held last month, but it was also apparent based on the many conversations that I've had with stakeholders across the district. Residents continue to be confused and concerned about the lack of clarity around how ranked choice voting works or the rules around their vote and how they will be counted. I am especially concerned about communities who have been historically disenfranchised, including our seniors, individuals with limited English proficiency, and our returning citizens. For example, wards 3, 4, and 5 have the highest number of seniors in the city, but yet as of today, there's been no targeted outreach or to really focus on that population. Furthermore, there's no comprehensive outreach and engagement plan, no implementation plan, no finalized regulations. And DC Board of Elections has gone on record saying that they are under-resourced and understaffed. Now, I don't know about how individuals feel on this dais, but I will say, to me, that is extremely problematic. With that, that is why I'm calling on my council colleagues to put aside your personal or political agenda and support this measure. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I defer to you.
Thank you. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't going to speak, but I'm interested now. So in November 2024, under Initiative 83, ranked choice voting passed with nearly 73% of the vote. That included a supermajority win in all 8 wards. Now, I understand how important voter education is, but we cannot deny that not only do DC residents want a ranked choice voting system, they are actually smart enough to understand how it works. Elections in DC, we are blessed to have very competitive elections where individuals raise their hand and decide that they want to serve their communities. I know this firsthand. My first election in 2020, I won my race against a field of 23 other candidates. I also recognize that as district elections get more and more competitive, we need a system that allows for voter preferences for candidates to truly be recognized. We currently have races now where we have upwards of 10 and 12 people who are running. The ranked choice voting system does that by electing a candidate that wins the majority rather than a plurality by small margins. Many of my colleagues continue to misrepresent some of the information that was provided by the Board of Elections Executive Director Monica Evans during the November 2024 roundtable. We don't have to go by what we heard, we can actually go to the transcript. When asked about whether the board has a RCV specific implementation plan, Director Evans responded, quote, "We have a plan, we have a strategy, and our voter education outreach division has a draft outreach plan specifically for ranked choice voting," end quote. When asked whether the board has sufficient staff for implementation, Director Evans responded, quote, "We do. We are working with the budget office to ensure that we have overtime hours. We have a statement of work to assist with our implementation," end quote. When asked countless times whether the board has sufficient time for implementation, Director Evans responded, quote, "We can stand it up. It will be on the June ballot, no problem," end quote. At one point, Director Evans even said she felt like she was being made the fall guy because it was clear that some of my colleagues were asking questions to influence her responses regarding the board's capacity. Using Director Evans' statements out of context to suggest that implementation of RCV is somehow quote unquote dangerous is disingenuous to attempt to delay the will of the voters in this regard. This legislation kicks the can down the road that by suggesting that 6 months is not enough time to implement or execute a successful voter education campaign, even though we know that's not true. Not only is the board confident that they will be able to develop and implement this successfully, they have already started this plan. Now, the suggestion that there are no voter outreach events taking place the week before Christmas, well, I don't know how many people are really paying attention. Well, some of us are paying attention to the election for next year this week. But there's time. There's no need for us to prematurely put ourselves out of the way of their execution. And I know that this before us today says that this is only moving this 1 year, but DC does not have off-year elections, generally speaking. So this would be, in fact, a move to back to 2028, 2 years from when voters said they wanted this.
Councilmember.
I know, Mr. Chairman, but you did start a pattern. I really will wrap up.
Well, yeah.
Okay. Anywho, just in, all of us have the ability to be a part of voter education and outreach. Each one of us in this room has an opportunity to talk to voters about what it means to prioritize your candidates and your choices. This isn't all on the Board of Elections to do voter education and outreach, and they haven't always been the ones who've been on the helm themselves. I'll be voting no on this resolution, and I urge my colleagues to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. I am going to pay a little more attention to the clock. Councilmember Allen?
I'll try to spend my 5.5 minutes judiciously, Mr. Chair. Let's be very clear. The chair of the Board of Elections says, we will be prepared and can fully implement ranked choice voting this June. The executive director of the Board of Elections has said the same. Just to give a quick rundown of changes that our DC Board of Elections has been able to accomplish in the District of Columbia. When I chaired the committee with oversight of BOE, they did the following. They implemented a public financing system for our elections, restored the right to vote for residents incarcerated for felony convictions. They adjusted the district's primary election date several times, actually. They enfranchised non-citizens for local elections, expanded early voting, and transforming the poll center model into consolidated citywide vote centers and mail ballot drop boxes. They did that one in 3 months in a pandemic. Creating and then expanding automatic voter registration, passing comprehensive campaign finance reform. They banned pay-to-play contracting, provided paid leave for voters, created a new ANC seat for DC jail residents, and expanded voting rights and education for incarcerated residents and returning citizens, reformed the petition circulation process, and reformed the initiative and referendum process. This is a board of elections and a staff that can do the job. We should not change elections like this, because that's what this is. This is changing an election after it has already begun. The cycle has already begun. Ranked choice voting has been planned for, it is funded, and it is the law. Changing it once an election has already begun adds uncertainty and confusion. It is unfair to the candidates and to the campaigns to have their rules changed on them midstream. I do believe this is going to be probably one of the most consequential elections that we have in recent memory, with more open seats and competitive races than we've probably seen in quite a while. To me, that is all the more reason ranked choice voting has to be on our June election, because it will better capture the voters' choices and thoughts on this. I think every campaign is going to have a very strong incentive to be able to help educate voters, and I believe it's going to dramatically ramp up how we successfully implement ranked choice voting. People are going to get a lot of outreach. That's on all of us. That's on every candidate running for office. But I think the continuous confusing message that we keep sending out of a will we, won't we, needs to stop, because voters and campaigns need to know exactly what the law is, which has already been passed. Their ranked choice voting has already been funded, and it will be on and part of our June ballot, exactly as the Board of Elections has said they are fully capable of implementing to make that a reality. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be voting no.
And thank you for yielding back 2 minutes. Councilmember Nadeau.
So I get those. I can get up to 7.5.
No, they belong to me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It was really heartwarming to hear that list that Councilmember Allen just went through, because I was thinking about how in the past 11 years that I've been here, we've given the Board of Elections a lot of work to do. And every time that we have challenged them, almost every election cycle, they have risen to that challenge. As a body, when we have concerns about whether something can or will be implemented adequately, it's our duty to double down on oversight. We check in regularly with the agency. We ask how we can support them, and we give them the resources we need. We do not say, we don't think you're ready to do the thing that we told you you need to do, so we're going to give you an extra 2 years. We almost never do that. In fact, most of the time, when the agency misses a deadline, we scream, we hold roundtables, we give speeches, we point fingers. We don't say, we'll give you an extension. So the time now is for us to jump in, to assist, to provide support, but to acknowledge what we heard in that roundtable, which is that the Board of Elections is ready to implement. And when it comes to voters, I choose to believe in their capacity to learn, to grow, and to truly participate in democracy. Do we want people to feel like it's worth their time to come out and vote? Then we should make sure that they feel like their vote matters and that their vote counts. And when there is an entire slate of candidates for one seat and we only get one vote, it's easy to feel like your vote doesn't matter. But with ranked choice voting, we get to put people in order of priority to us and know that our vote does matter. I also have faith in our seniors. I've seen them adapt over the years, and I know what happens when we count them out. I know they will also rise to the task, and that we will all work together to educate them. But out in community, I often see our seniors educating us. So let's just put a pin in the idea that seniors can't figure out how to vote by ranking the candidates. I urge those who want to see RCV implemented here in the District of Columbia to vote against this measure and instead to work together with the Board of Elections and civic engagement groups, with ANCs, with candidates to help with voter education. I want to thank Anita Bellamy Shelton's organization for already doing one ranked choice voting training just a couple weeks ago. At this moment, after we funded this in this budget cycle, to delay is to interfere. I urge this body today to vote no on this emergency bill and not to interfere in the upcoming election. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Robert White.
Thank you, Chairman. It's often as the chair of a committee, you have different and deeper insights than others, and so your view might be different. As somebody voting on this, I can only look at what I saw in the hearing and my conversations with Director Evans and others. And as I see this, I know that folks are anxious about implementing ranked choice voting for the first time, but here's the deal. Voters have already spoken. The Board of Elections is jumping through some final hurdles and working towards full implementation. And no matter when the Board of Elections implements ranked choice voting, there's going to be hiccups because it's going to be new. Now, my conclusion is that if we delay ranked choice voting, there's not going to be a mass voter education starting now because it would confuse voters who are going into the June elections and then the November elections. And so the Board of Elections would not really ramp up ranked choice voting education until after the November elections. There is a high likelihood that there will be a special election next year with a lot of council members running for other offices. So then it would seem that they wouldn't do the education early next year either. Then we start to get into the 2028 election. So the reality is, no matter when we start, whether it's now or 20 years from now, there's always going to be some hurdles and some hiccups. And I want to be sensitive to what I heard from Director Evans, that she and the agency not be made the fall guy for a battle that's outside of their purview. Their job is to implement. I've not heard anything on the record that says they won't be able to implement, so I have to take them at their word. And the mayor has not said that they are not ready either. The mayor sends a letter and says, vote no on this thing, vote yes on this thing. And the mayor did not say to vote no on this, that the agency isn't ready. So I have to make sure that I am implementing the will of the voters, which is what I've tried to do consistently since I've become a council member, whether I agree with the voters or not. If we agree with them when they pull the lever for us, then we have to support them when they pull the lever on a ballot initiative, even if we don't agree. But we do have to work together to make sure the agency is as prepared as possible. And I want to make sure that we're using our time educating voters and preparing the city as much as possible for ranked choice voting, because no matter when it happens, it's going to have some hiccups. And so our job is to use the time that we have, the energy that we have, reducing those hiccups and that confusion. So I'll be supporting the current timeline. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Parker and then Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have heard a lot about ranked choice voting, namely from Ward 5 stakeholders. I do want to acknowledge the work of Bob King and Hazel Thomas. I saw Robert Vincent Branham here, many of whom are skeptical of this new system going into place. And I take their concerns to heart. I do think we must be honest and address that there is a racial divide, geographic divide, and even a divide along age lines where some voters and residents are a bit more skeptical of this new voting approach. I think to just simply dismiss those concerns outright as being politically motivated kind of misses the mark. Not that any of my colleagues are doing that, but I want to acknowledge that the concerns are valid. Following that hearing that Councilmember Bonds held, had a conversation with Director Evans, because I left that hearing being concerned, and I don't know if she did herself or the agency any favors in kind of hedging her assurance that the agency was available. What I got from my conversation with her directly was that the agency was ready. What I've heard from the chairperson is that the agency is ready. And there's a tension there. I also take to heart that we are in the middle of an election season where we have dozens of candidates who have declared, millions of dollars have been raised, strategies have been developed with the understanding that ranked choice voting will be a part of this election. For 13 members of the council to change that in the middle of an election process seems tricky. I'll say it that way. I do have some questions for Councilmember Bonds. Following the hearing that you held with the Board of Elections and Monica Evans, can you just briefly discuss any follow-up that you've had with the agency as it relates to their preparedness?
Thank you, Councilman. I did have a couple of follow-ups. Most recently was Friday afternoon, this past Friday. And at that time, the executive director indicated that three things. One, that there was no expectation on the part of the Board of Elections that they would be implementing ranked choice voting in this election season. That was one. Number two, that they were in the process of still gathering information, ideas, best practices as it relates to ranked choice voting.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. Mr. Chairman, could we please have additional time?
I was going to say the member's time has expired. If you want an additional minute, but it will be a minute.
Just 1 minute, 1 minute. And the third thing, which
I think the council member had another question for you.
Yes.
well, the third thing, which I thought was very interesting, she indicated that she would spend the Christmas holiday writing a plan. So that is why I put in my presentation this morning just those facts.
Understood. And I think it's worth noting in the mayor's letter to the council, she stopped short of saying we should support this emergency. In fact, she writes, I urge council to conduct an in-depth review of the operational, logistical, and public education needed to ensure well-implemented, fully informed, and fair elections. I would argue this is an opportunity for the council to work alongside the mayor, and I hope our executive would be doing that alongside. This shouldn't just be the council. And my final,
Your minute is up.
my final 15
No,
seconds.
Your minute is up.
Okay, well,
Councilmember Pinto.
I do have more questions, so I'll ask Councilmember Bonds offline. Thank you.
Councilmember Pinto. Councilmember Pinto.
Sorry, so uncharacteristically quiet. I didn't hear it. Thank you very much. This does not apply to Councilmember Bonds, who introduced this bill, as she recently announced she is not running. But I will just add how uncomfortable it makes me voting on something that is affecting almost all of our elections. I think this is a very ripe example of when a ballot initiative is even more persuasive, because when elected officials are the ones making our own rules that govern ourselves for elections that could benefit or harm us in a couple of months, I think it leads to some challenges. I'm not supporting this emergency measure today, but I do want to acknowledge the very real and I think genuine concerns that have been raised around education, especially around some of the specific populations at the jail or in some of our senior centers and our hospitals. And I want to just encourage all of us to re-up our commitment to making sure that we are part of that education process with the Board of Elections, who does have a lot on their plate. And I want to thank Director Evans for all that she continues to do to make sure that our elections continue to be run smoothly and efficiently and empowering our voters. I think she and her team do an amazing job, and we should continue to support them and make sure that they have the resources that they need. And as other colleagues have pointed out, it's going to take all of us. This is not only a Board of Elections responsibility. There are other entities, nonprofits, community groups, faith leaders, who are all going to need to be a part of this to make sure people know what their options are. And as a reminder, if somebody only wants to vote once, that is also okay. It doesn't change the principle, methodology or options available to you to take a vote. So we'll continue to work on that, and want to thank everybody who's reached out on this issue, who I really appreciate the community's earnest engagement in the process to make sure that ranked choice voting can be implemented with fidelity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Pinto. Councilmember Lewis George.
Thank you, Chairman. I hear the concerns of my constituents and district residents on the matter of ranked choice voting. On one hand, there are those who worry that there isn't enough time for education and outreach to ensure every voter knows how to cast their vote, especially our seniors, voters with disabilities, and Black and brown communities who have too often been disenfranchised. And on the other hand, there are equally valid concerns that these objections are another effort to delay the implementation of an initiative that was passed overwhelmingly by the voters and fully funded by this council. I have been consistent that the council should uphold the will of the voters, whether it comes to fair wages or ranked choice voting. Pausing the implementation of ranked choice voting right now in the middle of a cycle, I don't believe is the right answer. But we also cannot allow for the communities that have been too often ignored to be left behind. I have asked the Office of Disability Rights, the Division of Deaf, Blind, and Hard of Hearing about their planned efforts to ensure that RCV is fully accessible to voters with disabilities, as those agencies fall under my purview as facilities chair. And I'm hopeful that the Office of Disability Rights is going to step up in that place to make sure access is granted to everyone. And the Board of Elections, the different parties in this district and elected council members all must make it a priority to ensure that between now and June, they are reaching out to educate voters on how RCV will work and how they can make sure their vote is cast properly. It must develop comprehensive plans on how to do it that will ensure that voters most at risk of not participating or those at risk of undervoting or overvoting are fully able to cast their votes under RCV. We've done it before and we can do it again. I won't go down the list of litany of what our Board of Elections has already done and achieved, but it has been great. The DC Fair Elections program and vote by mail were important steps towards leveling the playing field and ensuring that our elections are fair and more democratic. With both of these programs, we heard similar concerns about insufficient time for outreach and education, but each time the Board of Elections successfully implemented these programs, and each one has improved our elections and made them more accessible. Ranked choice voting is this next step toward leveling the playing field, but we need to get it right without slowing it down. It requires prioritizing voter outreach and education outreach to those most at risk of being left behind. The council has funded the work needed to make this happen. Now it's time to launch an equitable voter outreach program to ensure that every vote is counted and that we are carrying out the will of the people. With that, I will yield my remaining time to Councilmember Parker.
These
No,
30
you get
seconds.
19 seconds.
Okay, my 19 seconds. I had another question for Councilmember Bonds. One of the big complaints is there is not enough money to pull this off. Has there been a request of the executive to reprogram money for this to go well?
To my knowledge, there has not been a request, and I think it's based on the fact that they are still in conversations with their vendors to determine the exact amount. The estimate is 2.3 million, but that's an estimate at this point.
Thank you.
Councilmember Felder, second round.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is not a capacity issue as it relates to whether voters can figure out ranked choice voting. This is about DC Board of Elections preparedness to fully implement ranked choice voting. And while I do appreciate some of my council colleagues providing historic contents as it relates to some of the initiatives that the Board of Elections have been able to undergo in recent years, I want to create some context. since the establishment of home rule, DC residents have voted one specific way. And without having the proper outreach and engagement to educate voters on this new voting system, I fear that that will be extremely detrimental to the city and actually will hurt residents severely. Furthermore, we talk about, I would feel better if Board of Elections had the resources that they need to fully stand up ranked choice voting. Folks talk about how the Board of Elections have said they were ready. The funding that was given was partial, but yet you're expecting Board of Elections to fully stand up a new voting system. To me, that is extremely problematic, and I will not belabor this, but I think it's important to note that if we do not get this right now, then you're going to see the consequences in June. And then folks are going to say, hey, we should have done the needs assessment. We should have done an implementation plan. Before we let this horse out the stable, we can get it right now. Let's not lose that in this conversation. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I will defer my time.
Thank you. There's no further discussion. Councilmember McDuffie?
Just very briefly, I appreciate the spirit of debate by my colleagues on this issue. And as many have said, the voters have spoken on ranked choice voting in the District of Columbia. I want to say, though, generally speaking, it's important that any changes that we make to our system of voting are changes that are done thoughtfully with the priority of increasing voter participation, make it easier for residents to exercise their right to the franchise. And I don't know that anybody would disagree with that on this dais. How we do that, perhaps there is some disagreement, but the idea that we want people to have an easier way to vote is something that we should all agree with if we support having confidence and integrity in our democracy. I am concerned with what I heard at the roundtable on the preparedness of the Board of Elections to implement ranked choice voting. I think the goals underlying ranked choice voting, and I know there's disagreement on this, if they are to, make voting participation easier, I don't have an issue with that. If it's to strengthen voter confidence, build coalitions, and enhance our democratic process, I don't have an issue with it. I do have an issue when I know that the Democratic Party in the District of Columbia has raised serious concerns with it and don't support its implementation in the 2026 cycle for the reasons that my colleagues, Councilmember Bonds, Wendell Felder, have articulated. I also want to sort of dovetail on comments made by Councilmember Zachary Parker. In my conversations with people like Bob King, Hazel Thomas, I only know those folks and the people associated with their work to care deeply about our democracy in the District of Columbia and to do everything they can humanly possible to enhance voter participation in the District of Columbia. And yet they are really deeply concerned and fearful for what implementation of ranked choice voting in the 2026 cycle would mean to voters across the District of Columbia. I'm not trying to engage in any hyperbole. If the BOE feels that they're prepared, I just hope that they are able to execute for the sake of our local democracy. But when I hear a former party chair like Anita Bonds, somebody who has been engaged in our democracy in the District of Columbia since before we had home rule and after it and been championing things that help our system of voting, I'm going to side with her on this vote. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilmember McDuffie.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilmember Freeman.
Thank you very much. I will be voting against this for all of the reasons that my colleagues cited for voting against it throughout this debate. I do want to be the one member who doesn't use 3, 5, or 7 minutes in this debate. And I will, therefore, much as I love him, not cede the balance of my time to Councilmember Parker.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion.
Mr. Chairman, roll call.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilmember Parker, you want to be recognized again?
Yes. I will be brief.
2 minutes.
I just will conclude what I was mentioning earlier, that there seems to be three variables that we keep hearing about: education, funding for this initiative, and time. The only fixed variable of those three is time. If there is a need for more money, we can reprogram the money, and there should be a request, and the mayor should be sending down more money to the Board of Elections. I know Ward 5 stakeholders have delivered an education proposal and plan to the Board of Elections. I have met, or am planning to meet again with Director Evans to map out what might outreach and education look like in Ward 5. I encourage others to do that as well. But if there is concern about reaching vulnerable populations, it seems like there is an opportunity to influence that between now and June. And on the time front, as I was looking at this is delayed into June 2027. So assuming the Board of Elections doesn't take action on ranked choice voting until after the general election of this year, that means it would be December of 2026, 6 months before June 2027, that they would be doing some type of outreach and planning before this were to go into effect. And we might assume there may be special elections in the 2027 year. So all that to say, regardless of how this vote goes, and I think it sounds like it may not be successful, I'm hoping that we can work together with the executive, with stakeholders on the ground, like those we mentioned, to ensure that we implement this with fidelity. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilmember. Madam Secretary, if you would call the roll, because there was a request for a roll call vote. The vote is on the declaration.
Councilmember Nadeau?
No.
Councilmember Nadeau votes no. Councilmember Parker?
No.
Councilmember Parker votes no. Councilmember Pinto?
No.
Councilmember Pinto votes no. Councilmember Robert White?
No.
Councilmember Robert White votes no. Councilmember Trayon White?
Yes.
Councilmember Trayon White votes yes. Councilmember Allen?
No.
Councilmember Allen votes no. Councilmember Bonds?
Yes.
Councilmember Bonds votes yes. Councilmember Felder?
Yes.
Councilmember Felder votes yes. Councilmember Freeman?
No.
Councilmember Freeman votes no. Councilmember Henderson?
No.
Councilmember Henderson votes no. Councilmember Lewis George?
No.
Councilmember Lewis George votes no. Councilmember McDuffie?
Yes.
Councilmember McDuffie votes yes. Chairman Mendelson?
Yes.
Chairman Mendelson votes yes. Mr. Chairman, there are 5 yeses and 8 nos.
The declaration fails. The next measure on the agenda is PR 26-473. Let me restate that. 26-473. Cesar Chavez Public Charter Schools for Public Policy Revenue Bonds Project Emergency Declaration Resolution 2025. Councilmember McDuffie.
Thank you, Chairman. Cesar Chavez Public Charter Schools for Public Policy. The borrower is a nonprofit corporation which seeks to have District of Columbia revenue bonds issued and receive a loan of the proceeds of the bonds for all or a portion of the borrower's costs incurred in connection with this project. This resolution would promptly approve the authorization of the issuance of up to $25 million of District of Columbia revenue bonds to provide maximum savings for the borrower, enable them to refinance existing debt, and make capital improvements to the location at 3701 Hayes Street Northeast in Ward 7. Without this timely approval, the school will lose its bond purchaser commitment and face a serious financial challenge, which could significantly disrupt the school's ability to serve students and families in the Ward 7 Parkside community. With that, I move the declaration.
Thank you, Councilmember. We have the declaration before us. Is there discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Councilmember Felder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Councilmember McDuffie, for your leadership on this matter. Cesar Chavez Public Charter School has been an educational pillar in Ward 7 since 1998. They do invaluable work in providing DC youth with quality education and play an instrumental role in preparing DC students to succeed in college and beyond. The proposed financing will make critical funds available to support the construction and renovation of the Cesar Chavez campus. It will also go towards equipping and developing classrooms, science labs, gymnasiums, and auxiliary facilities. If we are unable to pass this emergency legislation today, Cesar Chavez will be forced to incur delays and additional financial burdens that will make it increasingly difficult for them to continue to support our students. And that's why I'm supporting this measure, and I encourage my council colleagues to do the same as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilmember. Further discussion? The vote will be on the declaration, PR 26-473. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. We have the underlying resolution, PR 26-474. Councilmember McDuffie?
So moved.
Discussion. On the PR 26-474, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. The next measure is Bill 26-536, Energy Efficiency Financing Debt Cap Temporary Amendment Act of 2025. Councilmember Allen?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, the tip? Sure, so moved.
Sure, so moved. We have the temporary before us. Is there discussion on the bill? Bill 26-536, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. There were two other temporaries on the agenda which are not being moved because the emergencies were not approved. My agenda here has other business. Councilmember McDuffie?
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to my colleagues and to the residents who are here in the chambers and perhaps those who are watching at home. As we close today's legislative agenda, I want to take a moment to share that this is also going to be closing a chapter for me personally and professionally. This is my final legislative meeting as a member of the Council of the District of Columbia. And that sentence is really something that is difficult to say out loud because I've been serving the people of the District of Columbia for more than 13 years, and it's truly been the honor of my lifetime. It's also not easy because I love this work. I love the fight to make our city fair, safer, more affordable, and more opportunity rich for every resident across every single ward in our city. But I also believe public service is much like seasons. And I believe in knowing when it's time to step forward into a new season. One that for me will still be rooted in the same purpose, serving the District of Columbia and fighting for all of us. But today I want to express gratitude because no elected office is ever held alone. So to my colleagues on this council, I want to say thank you. We've disagreed at times, and I think some of that just played out a couple minutes ago. We've had some really hard debates, but I have always respected the seriousness with which you approach this job and the love that you have for the city. I'm proud to have served alongside each of you. To the staff who keep this institution moving and everyone behind the scenes, thank you for your professionalism and for your patience. To the agencies and public servants across the district government, you are the ones who turn laws into reality, and you deserve our respect and our support. To my own team, both past and present, thank you. You've helped me stay grounded in the reality of what our residents are experiencing and what they need from each of us. I'm grateful to each of you for that service. And to the residents of the District of Columbia, thank you for trusting me with this awesome responsibility. I've tried to honor that trust every single day of working as a member of the Council of the District of Columbia. And if I could just briefly reflect on the work. When I first ran for council, I ran with a simple belief. Government should work for the people, and especially for the people who have too often been left out of opportunity. And I ran with a deep commitment to fairness, accountability, and public safety that respects civil rights. Values that to me are not in conflict, but that rather strengthen each other. Since being elected, I focused on a few core priorities. First, economic opportunity and worker fairness. Second, civil rights, public safety, and accountability. Third, good government and delivering services to the people of the District of Columbia. And fourth, using the budget process to deliver for all residents across all 8 wards. I believe in values-driven leadership, and that these core principles I just touched on define whether a city is truly working for all of its people. And unfortunately, right now, it's not. And it doesn't mean that we haven't tried, because I think the people on this dais, the mayor and others who are public servants across our government, try really hard to deliver for residents. But it does mean that we have more work to do. And the challenges in front of us are real ones. Residents are feeling the pressure of rising costs. The federal administration and Congress have together posed the greatest threat to our autonomy since the establishment of home rule 50 years ago. Families are worried about their safety, not just from criminals, but from the deployment of federal immigration officers and militaries from other states. Small and local businesses are navigating uncertainty, and we're competing for investments in our city's growth against other jurisdictions in the most challenging of economic times. If there's one thing I've tried to model during my time on this council, is this: we owe residents seriousness, we owe them preparation, we owe them honesty in what government can do, and we owe them the urgency to do it better. Which brings me to my final point. While this is my last legislative meeting, I am not done serving the residents of the District of Columbia. I love this city, I believe in this city, and I believe that our best days are still ahead. If we're willing to do the hard work, if we're willing to tell the truth, and if we're willing to bring people together around a shared commitment for our city's progress. So I'm stepping away from this seat with deep gratitude, with pride in what we've accomplished together, and real excitement about what comes next. I have more to say about that soon, but today I simply want to say this. Thank you to the residents of the District of Columbia. Thank you for allowing me to serve. Thank you for pushing me to be better. Thank you for trusting me with this awesome responsibility. And however I serve next, I want you to know I'm going to keep fighting for you. I will keep showing up, and I will keep delivering on my commitment to make sure that opportunity, safety, and dignity are not privileges in this city, but promises that we keep for everyone. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Councilmember. So my understanding is that you will be stepping down at the end of the month. This is your last legislative meeting. I would say it's a bittersweet moment, and it's a moment for pause just to reflect on your service. I can't say it's a surprise. There have been rumors for weeks. And despite the rumors, we don't have a crystal ball for you today. But as you know, we ordinarily do that at the end of a council period. I do want to acknowledge you and thank you for your service. I was reflecting earlier before the meeting. You were elected to the council in May of 2012. So that is roughly 13 years ago. You became Chair Pro Tem in January of 2013. So you've served as Pro Tem. I could almost say my Pro Tem, but there's no possession here. You've served as the council's Chair Pro Tem for almost 13 years. Chaired the Judiciary Committee. You're still chairing the Committee on Business and Economic Development. You've been in the thick of many important issues. When you were chair of Judiciary, you were the one who authored and pushed through the council the NEAR Act, which was a struggle at the time, and it was a struggle after to get it implemented. Most recently, working closely with me in the negotiations with the commanders over the RFK proposal. And of course, the many important issues that have been before the Committee on Business and Economic Development. It's a lot that you have done, and it's many years of service, and it would be inappropriate not to acknowledge that here, since this is your last legislative meeting before the council. So I want to thank you for that service.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilmember Belder?
No, Charles had this. No, Charles, go ahead. I'll go after Charles.
What's that?
Oh.
Councilmember Allen?
We're so polite with our hands. Well, normally it's something like this too. We at least have a chance to say a few words as well. So I don't want to miss that, since when you shared the news with me before the meeting began, as Phil said, perhaps rumors have been swirling around, but it kind of snapped me a little bit back to those 13 years ago, frankly. When you were first elected and you won a special election, a hard-fought special election, and came in. And I was not yet your colleague. I was a council staffer, chief of staff at the time. And I remember your office was across the hall from my own, and working with Corey and the team that you helped assemble, it was a lot of fun to be able to sit with you early on as you got started. Both of us have a lot more gray hair than we did then. But one of the things that I think gets overlooked a lot at the council is that these are unique jobs, and we have an honor and a pleasure to serve in them. And while there is plenty of collegial sparring and back and forth, we agree on a heck of a lot more than we ever disagree on, and we work together, but we also get to know each other in different ways. And we've had the opportunity to also watch your girls grow up and get to know your family. And I know you're incredibly and immensely proud of what they have done, but it has been a joy to work with you, to work with your staff, to get to know your family, to see that you have done a admirable, commendable job here at the council. And I'm really grateful for the time that we got to sit, sometimes nausea between us, but sit next to each other up on the dais and getting to work with you, getting to know your team and your staff who have just done a superb job, and many of them are here as well. I'm sure helping mark this moment today as well. But whatever it is you're hinting at that comes next, I certainly wish you the best of luck. And I'm grateful for the time that I've gotten to call you a colleague and be able to sit here on the dais and work with you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Felder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Where do I start? Councilmember McDuffie, you've been a mentor and a friend to me, not only since I joined the council, but my introduction into government. I've always looked up to you and admired you for the work that you did when you first fought for Ward 5 residents as the Ward 5 council member, and now as you impact the District of Columbia as a whole. Additionally, there's 3 other individuals on this dais who are Black men, who are natives, and who have had an opportunity to serve their communities, such as myself, Councilmember Trayon White, Councilmember Robert White, and to see a fellow native transition off the council, you would truly be missed. And, you know, you inspired a bunch of individuals that are coming after you. When I think about the role you've played in strengthening our local economy, supporting small and local businesses, and helping the District of Columbia be recognized as the sports capital of the United States, that is no easy feat. Your impact, it will be long lasting. And on behalf of every Ward 7 resident, we want to thank you for your dedication. You will truly be missed. And I look forward to what the future has in store for you. Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilmember Parker.
Thank you. As a non-native, I too thank you, Councilmember McDuffie, for your service. You were my predecessor on the council representing Ward 5, your community that you grew up in, and I don't take for granted the commitment, the sacrifice, the hard work that it takes to labor on behalf of not just the city, but your family, the folks you grew up with, the neighborhood you call home still. And I just want to thank you for that. I also, it is not lost on me that you have been, I think, the most prominent voice in being unwavering and unapologetic about advancing equity for Black and brown people in the city. And I think that should not be lost. It will not be lost. I think you should be very proud of that. I'm concerned about what that will mean for this body, not to have folks constantly reminding us about people that are easily forgotten and lost in the city. So I'll stop there, but I want to say thank you for your service, your commitment, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Councilmember Robert White.
Thank you, Chairman. Councilmember McDuffie, it's been an honor to be your colleague. on this council for a number of years. I've learned after you what it takes to decide to run for this body. It takes a lot. I've learned, as you have learned, how much it takes to work in this body. It is a ton of work. It's a lot of sacrifice personally for our families. Like me, you're blessed to have a family with an incredibly supportive wife. And I can only imagine what it takes to resign from this body. But want to take the opportunity to say thank you for your service to the city. As Councilmember Felder said, as a fellow native Washingtonian, we come here with a lot of similar experiences and shared experiences, and those are experiences that I think are important in the service that we do, particularly in a rapidly changing city. So I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank you for being a vocal proponent of our business community, which is a very important part of the district, important part of the community, whose voice is important. And you've made sure that their voice is not lost, but also that it is tempered by the importance of equity, racial equity, very importantly. So I appreciate and respect the work that you've done. I'm glad that I've had the opportunity to serve with you, and wish you well in all your endeavors.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Pinto.
Mr. Chairman. Well, Kenyon, congratulations on today's very big announcement. It is going to be a huge impact and hole in the council. But it has been such a privilege to work with you and learn from you. And I joined the council almost 6 years ago. I immediately looked up to you for how you build your team, for how you operate inside the building and outside. And it has been such a treat to get to learn from you and work on a lot of important projects together, whether that be around public safety, and continuing a lot of the efforts that you started when you were chairing the Judiciary Committee to set our city up to be a leader, which it now is across the country in the violence interruption space, and ensuring that your commitment to that work was steadfast, regardless of the changing times and improvements we needed to see. All of your partnership with economic development projects to ensure that they didn't just happen today, but that they were followed with fidelity to our district values to support local businesses and local jobs. And we are now seeing a lot of the fruits of that labor, and see our city come alive with some of those projects. And they could have only happened by being shepherded with your commitment to that work. And, you know, this body does a lot of legislative work, and we talk a lot about publicly what we do with legislation that we're introducing or passing, or investments that we're funding in the budget. But I think what you have also embodied and done really well is all of the leadership that needs to happen outside of the building, whether that be in supporting sports and young people and attending things in person to make sure that our community knows you are with them. And that is a very important part of being a member of the council and being a leader in this city that I think you have embodied and set a really strong example for the rest of us. So I want to thank you for everything you have done for the city. I want to thank your team, who's also been wonderful to work with, and are incredibly hard workers on behalf of the city as well. I have also learned a lot from your staff. And so thankful to them too. And congratulations again for today, and look forward to continuing to work together, and seeing you out there, and appreciate, just lastly, how fun you are to be around and to be with. And that should be clarified for the record, that you're a great person to be with. So thank you very much, Kenyon.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Bonds.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to add my voice to those that are commemorating our colleague. Not only has it been an honor to work with you in this capacity, as one of your colleagues, I also learned so much from you. And I say that because I want the audience to know that my first encounter with this young man was as an ANC commissioner. And maybe you remember when we were over at your house in Stronghold and we made you the chair of the Macmillan Project. Macmillan Project that went on for years. We saw leadership in you then and appreciated your approach. And then the next thing I want to call to your attention, remember we went to the bakery on 7th Street? And the council member said, Anita, I really want economic development to work in this city. I'm really about that. And I think it should all be brought together. Everything that was in economic development. And I said, housing too? That's what I chair. He says, no, not what you chair. So therefore, I learned a lot about that as well. Your economic development leadership has been just outstanding. You have been everywhere. And I do mean that. And you know, when you leave here in this position, know that our biggest promoter of the sports capital of the United States has just stepped away. So I'm waiting for your next chapter and I look forward to it. And congratulations. I know it's hard, painful, but you're moving forward. And there'll be many of us that'll move forward with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Henderson?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know everybody's waiting because they want to go eat lunch, but that's okay. So my first perspectives of Kenyon, it was actually as a staffer, which, you know, staffers talk. So we don't always have everything nice to say about certain members, but you spoke to staff who were not your own, which I know seems like a small thing, but it is actually a distinguishing factor because not all members of the council at that time would do so. And I think the staff that you produce, you have alum all over this building, all over this city. Some of my closest friends, I would go down to the committee office when I had a question, but I knew that they knew what was going on in that regard. And you also still hold the record of, I think, a hearing we still talk about, which was when we were closing the DC General and the family shelters. It was you and Rashad back and forth over the definition of what was close. You probably don't remember it, but the rest, those of us who were here for that, it was a late hearing. Nonetheless, I now see a completely different perspective of you as a colleague, but it's still very focused. It's still very serious, but is also still very fun to their stories. Also, sitting next to Kenyon in a meeting is just very dangerous if you were just trying to be a serious human being. Nonetheless, so I want to say thank you for your service to the city. I want to say thank you to your family for their service, your wife, your daughters. I know there were games you couldn't attend, events you had to miss for all these various reasons. And I think a lot of people don't recognize that when the member serves, their family is serving too. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Lewis George?
Thank you. I want to say congratulations to you, Kenyon, and I want to thank you for the amazing work you've done around violence intervention and prevention work. I remember being at the Attorney General's office when you were fighting here in the council to get the NERA Act passed, and we were in the Attorney General's office really excited about that work that you did, and you've never wavered on your commitment to violence intervention and prevention work, and understanding that that work is critical, and that if we don't address the root causes, we'll never address public safety in and of itself. I want to thank you for the ways you've helped work forward through your Business Economic Development Committee. Establishing a Petworth Main Street was one of the first things me and you talked about. You said, what do you want to do? I said, we need a Main Street on Petworth. And now that's an area that has bustling restaurants, businesses, even a comedy show can be watched down there at the 808 room. So really grateful for you in that aspect as well. And also you've always had amazing staff. So really grateful for you for bringing some of the most brightest and best people in this city to your office. Your staff has always been a joy with work with, both past and present. And so I want to thank you for that as well. And to me, I remember you taking me, Brooke, and Christina out after the council holiday party. No one wanted to hang with the freshmen, but you gave us an opportunity. And we had a fun night that night. That's all I will say. We had a great night. And we really appreciate it. It was the first time we felt like we had been on the council this time. It was the first time we finally felt like a part of the council and felt really welcomed. And so thank you for giving us that memory, that opportunity, but really like giving us our first real welcome to the council when we were freshmen. We will never forget it and we truly appreciate it. And lastly, I think the greatest things I admire about you is that you're a girl dad. Your greatest strength, and you have raised such amazing, phenomenal daughters alongside your beautiful wife. And girl dads are the best dads, I would say, and I agree. So thank you to your family for their sacrifice. Thank you for your service, and we truly will miss you here on the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilmember Fruman.
Thank you very much, Chairman Mendelson. Thank you, Councilmember McDuffie, for everything. Thank you to your family. Thank you to your staff. It's all been said, all of the wonderful things that you've done and the way in which you and your staff have carried yourself for the time that I've been on the council and for the time when I was more of a pest to the council. Thank you for the accomplishments, for the values around racial equity, for the values around economic development, so much that you've contributed over the years. I think I only qualify on one of Councilmember Felder's three, but to me, the biggest thing is your obvious love for the city that you've reflected in all of the things that you've done inside of the building and all the sports capital of the United States. It can sound like rhetoric. I know, because I think you, like me, are a 10-year-old boy on the inside who just loves sports. And so I can count on you when I go to the Turkey Bowl, when I go to the basketball state championships. There you are, not just on the sidelines, but cheering your heart out for the kids on both sides. I think that's what you've done so far in your career. I'm glad to hear that that's what you're going to try to do going forward. Thank you for everything. Thank you to your family and to your staff.
Thank you, Councilmember Fruman. Councilmember Tran White.
Thank you. I want to thank you, Councilmember McDuffie, for your leadership here on the council and for your dedication to our city. I remember when the violence was getting high and out of control in the city, and we talked about doing something. And I also remember the narrative that the news ran was that DC was paying people not to commit crimes. And it didn't pass initially, but you stayed committed and steadfast, not just pushing to get the money in the budget through working with Mayor Bowles, but also through Carl Racine. Remember the meetings we had in the backyard in back of WEAC Radio, and now in the Go-Go Museum. In fact, you were integral in ensuring that we can see it not robbery to put money in the budget to help people own businesses in their own community, which was done right here in Ward 8. You've been integral in making DC, the Go-Go, the official music for Washington, DC. And I can go on and on, but you have been a voice of reason when it comes to equity and inclusion for minorities, for Black and brown people in DC. I think that should not be taken lightly in a place where I was just talking about equity for Ward 8 20 minutes ago. And that fight is still needed here on the council. But you've been a fighter for residents of DC. You've been a fighter for many just causes in the district. And I just want to send a passionate, compassionate love to your family. You know, as a father, it's hard to do this work day in and day out, and to your children who have to be, you know, co-council members with you in this journey. So I wish you well, man. Thank you for your service, and God bless.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Nadeau.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Councilmember McDuffie, when you were a ward council member, it was a pleasure sharing a border with you. You know, in Ward 1, we touch almost every other ward. And so we have to keep up very good relations with our fellow ward council members. But I want to thank you especially for your steadfast support of Park Morton. That project has gone on for way too long. But when it was referred to your committee, you made sure to keep it moving. to push back against the NIMBYs that were trying to kill that project. And thanks to all your support, we have been able to cut a ribbon this year. So I want to thank you for always having our back on that. You have been such a strong supporter of small businesses, allowed those of us who want to support small businesses to do that through legislation in your committee. So thank you for helping me keep so many businesses alive in Ward 1. And for your allyship and friendship with the Jewish community all these years, which I know is very near and dear to you. But perhaps most grateful of all for your leadership on the NEAR Act, which has been a game changer across the city, but in Ward 1. When I was a freshman council member, I felt like I was wandering the building with my hat out, trying to cobble together enough funds to ensure that we were preventing gang violence in Columbia Heights. And there was no home for that. You know, we tucked it under the deputy mayor for Health and Human Services and tried to move that money out the door. It was not until the NEAR Act passed that there was a real home for that work. And I thank you for your vision and leadership on that. I look forward to hearing what you have planned next, and wish you only the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember. So I think every member has spoken to you and said thank you, which is a testament to your service. I would say I've learned a couple of things listening to colleagues. It's helpful if I'm friendly to other council members' staff. Good luck keeping them. And then also that there's a value to taking freshman members of the council out to parties after the party. Maybe even the party after the party after the party. But it is a bittersweet moment, but also a moment that we say thank you. Thank you. And with that, I think that concludes our business. The time is 2:23 in the afternoon, and this meeting is adjourned.